Hi, and welcome to Yoga with Annalisa. I am Annalisa. Thank you so much for joining me today, whether you're here with me live on Zoom or watching later. Welcome. Um, I invite you to make this your own practice today, as always. Honor how you're feeling today. And if that means doing something totally different, if it means lying down and just being kind of in a relaxed pose and breathing the whole time, that's okay. That'll be your yoga for today. So, with that, making today your own class, your own experience. I figured today we'll settle down and center ourselves before I introduce the last in the yamas, or the ethical codes for yoga. So find a comfortable position. That could be seated, it could be lying down, any number of ways. Find what's right for you. And then either close your eyes if it feels comfortable, or take a downward gaze, or anything. So find yourself in a comfortable position and take a few deep, full breaths in and out as you start to notice how you're feeling today. Finding yourself here, taking inventory, noticing how you're feeling today. How do you feel? How would you like to feel? And let's maybe take one more big full breath in and let it out. And then just return to your natural breathing pattern and start to bring awareness to your breath, following as it moves into your lungs and down into your body, and then following the breath out of your body. Just noticing your breath. You can be breathing through the nostrils, or breathing through the mouth, or a combination of the two. Notice where your inhale is coming from. And on your next inhale, notice the quality, notice where it's coming in, notice the temperature, the feeling of wherever it's entering in. Maybe feeling cooler on the inhale. And then as you exhale, notice where you're exhaling from. And on your next exhale, notice the quality of the breath, the temperature. Just notice. And then noticing them both together. The inhale, the exhale. Knowing that at any time during your practice, or even during your day, you can come back to the breath and notice that it brings you a little bit more into yourself, a little bit more into the present moment, giving you something to focus on. And then now I invite you to take your awareness into your face and head, and start to invite some softness and relaxation into the face and head, relaxing those facial muscles that often get into sort of an unconscious scrunch position. And also checking in with the jaw, opening your mouth, unclenching your teeth, moving your jaw a little bit from side to side and up and down, maybe even yawning, forcing a yawn. And then when your yawn finishes, then bring your jaw closed, but keep your teeth slightly apart. Maybe let your lips close, but let the teeth stay slightly apart, keeping a little bit of softness in the jaw. And let this feeling of softness and relaxation start to move from the face and the head down through the neck, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the torso, from the upper back, down the spine, through the mid back, into the lower back and pelvis area, feeling the belly soften. And letting that feeling of softness and relaxation move down into the legs, into the feet and toes. Getting a feeling of softness and relaxation through the whole body. With your awareness down in your lower body, start to get a sense of where it's contacting the ground, making contact with the earth. If you're in a seated position, that might be the only place that's making contact with the earth. But if you happen to be lying on your back, then notice where the whole body is contacting. Maybe noticing the contact of your hands if they're touching your legs, feeling the warmth, getting the sense of your clothes on your skin, and maybe even the air moving around you. Becoming aware of any sounds around you, both nearby and far away. Noticing any scents or tastes that are present for you. And can you notice anything vision-wise? Even though your eyes might be closed, you might notice some light or shadow on your eyelids. And then take your awareness into your mind and just observing any of the thoughts or feelings or emotions that might be present for you. And just letting them be, acknowledging them. Finally, becoming aware of the present moment. And can you allow it to be just as it is? Allowing yourself to be just as you are. Being in this present moment. Knowing at any time you can use the breath, body awareness, checking in with the senses. All those things can be used to help bring yourself with the present moment. And in this present moment, let's take a big full breath in and a big full breath out. And then if your eyes were open, I invite you to open them. And if you were lying down, I invite you to join us in a seated position if that feels comfortable for you. And so we have been, the past several weeks, I've been giving just a brief introduction to the yamas, the first limb in the 8-limbed path of yoga. It's the ethical code. And the final one, the fifth one, is aparigraha, or non-greed, non-grasping, or letting go, allowing. In some ways, we just experience a little bit of it there, just acknowledging if we noticed anything going on in our head, we could just acknowledge it, allow it to be, let it go, without grasping onto any one thing. It's also about acknowledging that impermanence is a part of life and that really change is our only constant. And this can be both liberating, but it can also be kind of scary sometimes. But one of the things with the yamas is to notice when we are not. That's one of the, I think, a note I have in my book from my first training, to notice when I am not embodying these things. So as best we can, try to allow yourself to let go, not grasp onto things, allow change to happen, because it's going to happen anyway. And this can be seen in a lot of ways if you start to think about it. And we might even just close our eyes for a moment and just think about aparigraha, non-grasping, letting go, non-greed, and think about how maybe, especially in 2020, in that crazy year that we've just got through, where did you see that, or where did you see that you were not embodying that notion of non-grasping, or not letting go, or resisting change, or perhaps hoarding, or just that, even like that feeling that you needed, you needed to hold on to stuff. So just taking a moment, and you don't have to think about 2020, you can think about just in this moment right now. You can even think about your yoga practice, because yoga practice is going to change from year to year, from day to day, and that's okay. So just taking maybe one more breath, thinking about aparigraha, how it applies, how you can apply it, how maybe you can apply it today. Non-grasping, letting go, allowing for change. We'll take one big full breath in and a big full breath out. And then you can open your eyes if you had them closed. And let's inhale, bring the arms up. I invite you to bring the arms up if that feels good for you. Inhaling and then exhaling, letting the arms come down. Once more, inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down. Inhale, bring the left arm up and lean over to the right. Inhale, come back to center, and then exhale, lean over to the left. And we'll move here from side to side, feeling the side to side stretch, starting to open up, starting to feel the body moving in different ways, moving more, moving different ways, exploring. Now inhale, bring both arms up into the center, and then exhale, turn, twist. Take a breath or two here. Inhale, come to center, and then exhale, twist to the other side. And breathe. Inhale, come to center. Exhale, bring the arms down. And let's roll the shoulders a few times. Noticing how those shoulder blades move on the back. Feeling the upper body starting to wake up, changing the direction if you haven't already. Breathing as you move. And then inhaling, bringing the arms out wide. And then exhale, bring one arm across. And then inhale, and then exhale, bring the other arm across. And then let's give ourselves a little hug, a little pat on the back. Moving a little bit through the upper body, moving the elbows. You can think about moving the elbows and then see what happens as the rest moves with you. You move them side to side, move them up and down, move them in a little circle. Breathing. And then next inhale, open the arms out wide. And on your exhale, bring one arm across. And then inhale and exhale, bring the other arm across. Maybe having the other arm on top, whichever you had just switch directions, you know what I'm saying. And then give yourself a hug in this position. Moving around, getting a sense of movement in the upper back, in between the shoulder blades. Noticing maybe where there isn't some movement. Just allowing for what is. Inhale, bring the arms out wide. And then exhale, bring the fingertips to the tops of the shoulders. Making some some elbow circles. These can start out small and get bigger. They can be this whole same size the whole time. Breathing. And going the other direction. And then inhale and exhale, let the hands come down, the arms come down. Do a little more shoulder roll. If you had done both together at first, maybe do alternating. And if you've done alternating at first, maybe do together. Remember to go both directions. And then just take a pause here. Just notice how you're feeling after just a few movements. And then if you've got anything underneath you, move it out of the way. And then let's come all the way down onto the floor, onto our backs, maybe slowly coming down. So bending your legs out in front of you and just slowly rolling yourself down. Taking whatever time you need. And if you need to come down faster, that's okay. And when you come all the way down, bring your arms over your head, reaching your fingertips to whatever's behind you and stretching the soles of your feet to whatever's in front of you. So, and then even adding a little bit of wriggling, reaching maybe one arm and one leg, and then reaching the other arm and the other leg so that you kind of wriggle, finding length, opening up through all the nooks and crannies of the joints, everywhere, maybe even adding a little bit of wrist and ankle circles, just getting a little bit more movement. And then let that go, bring your arms down by your sides and bend your knees and bring your feet up towards the ceiling, straightening your legs, keeping a little bit of a gentle bend, and raise your arms up in the air, fingertips reaching up towards the ceiling. And from here, just start to make some wrist and ankle circles, moving the wrists and ankles through a full range of motion as you kind of move things around, Starting slowly at first, noticing, making sure that if you feel pain, perhaps it's a chance to back off a little bit. And then bend and straighten your legs at the knees and your arms at the elbows. And you can keep things closer together, or perhaps start to widen the space between the legs and the arms, or alternate, just creating a little bit more movement, having a sense of curiosity, of playfulness. And then coming back to center and making this more of a bicycling, circling kind of movement. You might even play with the angle of this cycling. So you might have started with your legs kind of 90 degrees to the floor, but maybe see what happens if you take it out to like a 45 degree. Just noticing. And again, here you could play with the width of the arms and legs. Maybe noticing if one side feels different than the other side, has less opportunity for movement. You can also pedal the opposite direction. And that's okay. As I was saying, different sides can be different. Maybe today you don't feel like extending as much on the right side. And so then you don't. You extend on the left side, but you don't extend on the right side. You honor how you're feeling. And so bring that movement to a close and bring your knees in towards your chest a little bit more. And start to rock your lower body from side to side. And you can make this a bigger rock where you even roll over onto one side and then back, roll over to the other. And then coming back to center and letting your feet, the soles of the feet, contact the earth once more. Lift up your right foot and taking your knee out to the side, start to make a few knee circles, knee and leg circles, with this movement coming from the hip. Going in both directions. Taking that hip through a bigger range of motion than we often do. And then bring it back to center and keeping your thigh about perpendicular to the floor again. Turn your knee out. Try to keep the thigh where it is and turn your knee. So if this is your right leg, your knee is going to kind of go towards the right. And so you'll start to see the inside of your shin. And then turn it back to center, your toes pointing directly away from you. And then see what happens. This is going to be a little bit different, but try gently to turn your knee towards the left now, internally rotating. So you might even put your hands on either side of your thigh and imagine, okay, turning the leg externally so that you see more of the inside of your leg, and then turning the leg internally where you might just see just a little bit of the outside of the leg. Just exploring that movement. And maybe even making this a little bit smaller so that the external rotation is just as much as the internal. So we probably don't have as much internal rotation. So just make a small little movement here, focusing on that internal rotation. And then let that go. You can bring that knee closer in towards you. And then let the foot come down. Take a pause. Notice how you're feeling. Notice the legs. Notice the hips. And then lift your left foot and start to make some knee and leg circles here. Movement coming from the hip. going in both directions. And then bringing the leg back into center so that the knee is pointed up towards the ceiling and the shin is parallel to the floor. And then begin the external rotation, so turning your left knee out towards the left so you're seeing the inside of your leg, and then coming back to center, and then turning it internally so you see a little bit more of the outside of your leg. And then move from side to side here, exploring, noticing, allowing for what is. And then bringing it back, internally rotating, and then making this just a small movement here where it's like we're just concentrating on the internal movement. You may rotate externally just a little bit, but not as much as your full range. Just getting a little bit more work into that internal rotation of the hip. Or the leg at the hip. And then let that go. You can bring the knee in if you like. And then let that foot come down. Take a pause here with the knees bent, noticing. How do your hips feel? How does your spine feel? How do your shoulders and neck feel? Allow your knees to come in and bring your forehead in towards your chest. Rock a little bit from side to side. Give your back a little bit of a gentle massage here on the floor. Rocking from side to side. Being conscious of if you have a hard floor underneath you, this might not feel quite as good. And then roll over to one side and press yourself up to a seated position. And then let's go ahead and come to all fours on our hands and knees. So bringing yourself now into this table position, find your position here. Wrists are going to be under your shoulders, knees are beneath your hips. And play here for a moment. Notice your elbow pits, so the inside of your elbows. And see if you can rotate them so they're facing forward. And then, can you create a little bit of rotation in the arm? So the hands are stationary. Move back a little bit more. The hands are stationary and the shoulders are stationary, but the arms move. And you can tell that by the pivot of the elbow pits. What does that feel like for you? Can you press the floor away from you a little bit? Breathing. And then letting that go, you can sit back on your heels for a moment, give a little shake, get a little more of a wrist circle. And then coming back to hands and knees and moving through cat-cow or cat-dog. Inhaling, letting the belly drop down, letting the chin and tailbone raise up. And then exhaling for cat, like your Halloween cat with your spine rounding up towards the ceiling, your chin and tailbone tuck. Your chin tucks in towards your collarbone, feeling some length in the back of the neck. And then inhale, belly drops down. Exhale, spine rounds towards the ceiling. One more time here, exhale, or excuse me, inhale, belly drops down. And exhale, spine rounds towards the ceiling. Now we'll do another one of these, but it'll be a little bit more exploration on your part. So the belly drops down as you inhale. And you may hang out here for a few breaths. So here, excuse me, in this belly down, chin and tailbone lift, what can you explore here? Maybe moving a little bit from side to side, honoring what your own spine feels like. Taking a few moments here. Maybe letting the belly just unfurl. So many times we keep the belly tensed up all the time. But what happens if you allow the belly to soften a little bit, giving some relaxation for that area, allowing the organs to soften a little bit even. And then coming back to neutral, adjusting your hands, shaking out your wrists as you need. And then inhale and exhale, round your spine towards the ceiling, tucking the chin, tucking the tailbone. And now taking a few breaths here and exploring some movement here. What happens if you rock a little bit forward and back? What can you feel? What can you notice? Creating a little bit of length in the neck, perhaps moving that a little bit, moving ahead. Just experiencing your body just as it is. Taking one more breath. And then sitting back. Actually, let's sit back on our heels, but keep your arms still outstretched in front of you. And reach a little bit more forward with the right hand. So creep those fingers a little bit more forward so you get a stretch in the right side, maybe down into the arm, the armpit, into the rib cage. Where do you feel it? Is there a little bit more movement or motion that might feel good here? And then returning to center, and then allowing the left hand to extend a little bit more, the left arm, and exploring on that side. And then coming back to center, coming back to table position, to all fours, and stepping one leg back behind you, curling the toes under, extending the leg, and then extend the other leg back behind you, coming into a plank. Can you press the floor away from you and turn the elbow pits forward? Knowing that also coming down onto the knees is a perfectly great option here. You can still press the floor away. You can lengthen through the back of the neck. You can breathe. And then start to send the hips up and back, coming into a downward dog. And if you happen to be on your knees in the plank, you can come up into the downward dog, or you can stay on your knees and press yourself back just a little bit, keeping your hips up in the air, exploring that movement of the arms. And then wherever you're at, flow back into your option of the plank, your version of the plank, whatever it looks like today. And then flow back into your version of downward dog. If your
arms and legs are extended in downward dog here. You don't have to have the heels on the floor. You can keep the ankle or the heels up. You can keep bending the knees. Invite a little bit of movement. So here's an example of some movement. You don't have to be looking at me, but I'll show some movement in downward dog. Or if you have your knees on the ground, what happens if you move your hips a little bit from side to side? You can create whatever kind of movement that you like. Maybe even taking your hips or taking one leg over to the side. Find what feels good. And in fact, let's see what happens. Oh, okay. So here's an interesting thing. If you'd like a little bit of adventure in your downward dog, actually, we'll come back to that. So bring yourself down to your knees. And if you like to come down into a child's pose, give a little stretch. Or you can sit back on your heels, coming up, giving a little shake. If you've been down in child's pose, come on up into a kneeling position. And then let's come back to all fours and perhaps stepping the feet back and then sending the hips up into downward dog, up and back. And so one of the things I noticed as I was playing is we've done a thing before, if you've joined me before, where we pour weight into, let's say, pour weight into the right leg, and then you can lift the left leg up, sending the heel towards the ceiling and the toes point down towards the floor. But now I invite you, what happens if you, pressing the hands and the foot that's on the floor into the floor, what happens if you move the leg that's in the air? What happens if you move it around in different ways? So you could just make some circles, but what happens if you take it, cross it kind of behind you or in front of you? So take a moment there. And if you happen to be on your knees, well, that's okay too. You can lift one leg behind you and send it behind you. Maybe you can cross it in front. What happens? Feel free, if you want to be still, you can be still as well. Okay, so we've done the left leg, we had the left leg up in the air. Let's transfer over now to the right. Lifting the right, well, the weight is now in the left leg and the right leg is up. And then now what happens if we move? If you need to do something on the other side or come down, whoop, I've just lost my my headset or my little earbud thing, whatever this thing is called. All right. So it's a wild day here. So taking a few more moments to explore whatever might feel good. You can always come down to the knees. And then come on down to your knees, send the feet back either into child's pose or come into a kneeling position or whatever position might feel good. Breathing, shaking out the wrists, the shoulders, observing. I invite you, if you had been in child's pose or if you were in a different position, I invite you to come to a kneeling position or some sort of slightly upright position. Take a few breaths. What does your breath feel like? What's your body feel like? Let's come back once more to all fours into the table position. And once again, step one leg back, step the other leg back. Coming into plank or having the variation with the knees on the floor. Breathing into the plank, pressing the floor away in all positions. Now sending the hips back, up and back into the downward dog, making this as still or as flowing as you like. Inhale and exhale, come forward into the plank. And then send your hips back into downward dog or an option. Breathing. Come forward into a plank. I'm going to go ahead and come down to my knees. And then I'm going to come back, send my hips back. So whether you're up on your feet or on your knees, send the hips up and back. And then inhale, exhale, come forward into a plank. Press the floor away. Turn the elbow pits to face forward. Check in with your face, with your jaw, with your neck. What happens if you turn your head a little bit from side to side? Does that feel good? If it does, do it. If it doesn't, don't. And then hips go back into some version of downward dog. Can you still press the floor away? Can you release the head and neck? Can you breathe comfortably? And then come forward, come down, bring your knees down, and then walk your hands back, coming into a kneeling position. Give a shake of the hands, give them a little pull. Let them rest on your legs or wherever might feel comfortable. Now, bring yourself, let your hips come over to one side, perhaps to the right, and then position your legs so that they're in a 90-90 position. So positioning the legs here, knowing that if it doesn't feel quite comfortable to have the shins so far away, you can bring the shins closer in towards the body. So find your comfortable seat here. Lean forward just slightly and maybe even imagine that you are pressing your right knee and leg into the floor. And then slowly see if you can lift the back knee and leg. So the foot stays on the floor, but lift the knee up a little bit and then bring it back down. Lift it up and bring it down. Up and down. And then releasing your hold on that front leg, turn yourself into a little bit more of a twist. So keep looking over towards your right and behind you. You can have some support on the floor with your right hand. If you'd like a little bit more, maybe reaching with the left arm. You may come out of the twist a little bit more, readjust so that you can reach. And maybe, what happens if you make an arm circle? See what both directions might feel like. Really, when the arm is in front of you, really reaching away.
being mindful of your body, and then letting that release and bringing your right forearm down to the floor. So you'll lower your body over towards the side. Your forearm is going to be about parallel with the right thigh. Inhale, lift your left arm up. And as you do this, press your right elbow, right forearm into the floor so that there's a lift in your shoulder. You're not just to sag down. So lift up, nice, powerful shoulder and arm complex here. Then lift up, inhale with the left arm. And then as you exhale, bring that left arm underneath the right arm, reaching through. And inhale to unwind. Exhale to reach through, twisting, reaching through. Take a few breaths like this at your own pace. No need to rush, exploring. Maybe even taking a breath when you're in this reached through position, expanding through the rib cage. The next time you inhale, open up, unwind, then just exhale and let that hand come down. Gently press yourself upright. And then, again, press your hands into that right thigh and knee, keeping the leg on the floor. And then start to make some movement again with the left leg, gently raising that knee and leg up, and start to slowly lift the left knee. You might turn and look at it and start to notice, keeping the right leg down as much as you can for as long as you can. You might start to come onto the hands behind you. We're starting to turn over to the other side, but we're going very slowly. So you'll start to feel finally that the right leg will peel off, and that will start to move over towards the left into the 90-90 position. And once you get there, take a pause. Notice how this is feeling. And start to press the left leg and knee down into the floor. And then looking back at your right leg, start to raise it up and down a few times. And then letting that down. And then you can release that hold and start to twist. Twisting towards the left. And perhaps leaning back a little bit onto the left hand and extending the right arm now. Reaching and perhaps creating some arm circles here. Taking up as much room as feels comfortable for you. Going in both directions. And then when you've done both sides, and you just let that arm come down, and then take your left arm and come down, leaning down over towards the left. So your left forearm, I'm going to turn this way. The left forearm is going to be kind of parallel to the left thigh. And then pressing the left forearm down into the floor so you create space here in the shoulder, create a stable base. Inhale the right arm up, and then exhale, thread and reach underneath. And then as you inhale, unwind. And then exhale to reach through. And I invite you here, take a breath here. Inhale and exhale. And then inhale to unwind. And so move through this a few times at your own pace, exploring, feeling. And the next time your arm comes up as you unwind, inhale, and then exhale. Let that arm come down. And then gently pressing yourself up to center. And then pressing into the left leg, holding it down. Again, look back at your right leg and do a few movements here again. Raising and lowering. Getting some movement into that hip, some rotation. And then slowly starting to keep, let's see, we're going to start moving towards the right a little bit. So you may lean back, but keep this left leg down as much as you can as you start to raise the right leg or the right knee, turning it more towards the side, slowly feeling as you come more to the center of your hips that both knees come up. And then I invite you to pause there in the center so that your knees are bent out in front of you. Go ahead and widen them, and then just make a few little windshield wiper here movements. And then walk the feet closer in. And we're going to start to come down to the floor once again, slowly. So arms out in front of you. You might like to have the finger or the toes pointed up towards the ceiling as you start to lean back. And when you come down a little bit, pause, reposition, maybe lengthen through the neck, adjust the shoulder blades, maybe even doing a little bit of that forward and back that sometimes we do, just creating a little bit of movement here, and then pausing, and then rolling down an inch or two more, enjoying any little shakes that you might encounter, pausing. You want to do a little movement here, and then maybe a little bit more, rolling down, noticing, having fun with it, and then coming all the way down, bringing your arms over your head, stretching your feet out and reaching the fingertips and the soles of the feet in opposite directions, wriggling, finding space, moving your hands and feet, moving anything however you might like, just maybe even just giving yourself a little shake on the floor, a little rock. Can you jostle yourself? You can also bring the arms down to do this jostling, bring them down by your sides, kind of shaking, almost like you're just shaking your feet from side to side so you feel that rippling effect go through the whole body, and then pause. And then just feel that stillness and just notice. Go ahead and bend your knees and bring the soles of the feet onto the floor, and bring your right foot up and turn it so the right ankle rests on the left thigh, just above the knee. Take a breath here. Notice how that feels. If that feels great, you want to just hang out here, go for that.
But you might like to raise the foot up off the floor and maybe take a hold behind the left leg. Inhale and exhale, and gently let the left knee sink a little closer in towards the torso. Breathing, releasing, letting go wherever you're at. One more breath here. And then on your exhale, release your hands, release the foot back down to the floor, release the other foot down, pausing here. And then raise your left foot and place the ankle, cross it over the right thigh just above the knee. Take a pause here. Notice how this feels. Stay here if this feels great. If you'd like a little bit more, then lift the right foot up off the floor. Hold onto the back of the right leg. Inhale and exhale. Slowly allow the right knee to come closer towards the torso. Breathing, relaxing, feeling. One more breath. And as you exhale, release the hands, release the right foot back down to the floor, the left foot back down, and pause. Allow your arms to come into a cactus position or goalpost arms so that the elbows are bent, the fingertips are pointed behind you, and just allow yourself, allow your lower body to rock a little bit from side to side. Your feet can stay on the floor, your knees move to one side and to the other side. The back hip will likely lift off the floor. If you want to reach with the same, reaching the arm towards the side that you're turning. I don't think I said that correctly. If your knees are going over towards the left, your right arm reaches towards the left as well. There we go. And when your knees go to the right, the left arm reaches over to the right. And you might try even the other way. As the knees go over towards the left, reach the left arm to the right. And back to center. Knees go over towards the right arm reaches towards the left. Just play. Eventually, coming back to center, slowing the movement down, and starting to move into our final relaxation position, Shavasana, which can look so many different ways. You might like having your legs go over to one side and you roll over to one side and you hang out there. Or maybe you lengthen both of the legs and the arms. Or you might like to stick a bolster underneath the knees or underneath your head. Or have the knees bent. You find what is comfortable for you. It could even be sitting up. Find what's going to be comfortable for you. Start to take a few long, slow, deep breaths in and out. In and out. Softening a little bit more on every exhale.
And then letting your breath become normal, returning to a normal breathing pattern. And begin to invite softness into the body. You can do this in any way that you wish. I'll give some suggestions, but feel free to do what feels right. So first, you might invite your awareness into the face and head, checking in with the jaw, with the facial muscles, maybe even giving a scrunch to the facial muscles, tightening them up, and then releasing, and feeling things smooth out, moving the jaw a little bit from side to side, and then letting that come to stillness, letting the teeth stay slightly apart, and the lips gently touch. Allow this feeling of softness to travel through the entire head, into the neck, the back, sides, and front. Feeling head and neck calm, soft, and relaxed. And then feel this awareness moving into your shoulders, arms, down through the elbows, into the wrists, hands, and fingers. Feeling your arms calm, soft, and relaxed. Coming back into the shoulders, moving into the chest, the upper back, the ribs, front, sides, and back, down the spine, into the mid-back, the belly, all the abdominal organs, the low back, hips, and pelvis. Feeling your entire torso soft and relaxed. From the hips, now moving down into the thighs, to the knees, down the legs into the ankles, feet, and toes. Feeling your whole legs calm, soft, and relaxed. Feeling your entire body calm and relaxed. Perhaps feeling the heaviness of muscles relaxing. You might even notice this heaviness becoming lightness.
Slowly now begin to deepen your breathing, deepening your awareness. And slowly begin wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes, inviting a little bit more movement into the rest of the body. And taking your time, bending your knees and rolling over onto your favorite side and pausing for a moment. And then starting to gently press yourself into an upright position, keeping your eyes closed or taking a downward gaze, keeping your focus internal. Noticing how you're feeling. Maybe placing one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, taking a big full breath in and a big full breath out. May we be free of suffering. May we have physical happiness. May we have mental happiness. May our hearts be at peace. You can allow your eyes to open, and I thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day or evening or whatever time it happens to be for you when you're watching this. And I hope to see you again next time.